I'm Jim Collison, live from the Gallup studios here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 3, recorded on April 13th, 2017. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths themes, one theme at a time, and today's theme is Activator. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during this live webcast, we do have a chat room that's available for you right below the main video window. So if you're watching on our live page in the YouTube video, let's go right down there. There's a chat room for you. Love to have you ask questions live. We'll take those live while you're in there. Best way is to log into it, though. You got to do that first bottom left-hand corner. Click log in, choose the guest account, put your name in where it says guest, and hit submit. Super easy to get in, and we'd love to have you join us live. You can also pop that chat room window out. There's two little red boxes in the upper right-hand corner. Just click that. It'll pop it out, and you can put it anywhere on the screen that you'd like, and we'd love to have you in the chat room. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, we do that as well. Send us an email. And really, this email is good for any questions, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com for all your CliftonStrengths coaching resources and StrengthsFinder needs. You can also catch the video now streaming and downloadable audio. Everything we do is available for you in podcast form. So you can download it to your phone or put it on your iPad, listen to it on a cruise, any of those kinds of things that you want to do, available off our coaching blog. Just head over to coaching.gallup.com. By the way, we made some changes on the coaches blog, so you might want to go out there and take a peek. We added some new colors, and it kind of matches the Strength Center now. So if you want to head out there and take a peek, that is coaching.gallup.com. Maika Leibbrandt is our host today. Maika works as a workplace consultant here at Gallup, and I wish she was on the riverfront, but Maika, always great to see you, and welcome to another Theme Thursday.
Thanks, Jim. Can you believe we made it all the way through the first fourth of our themes?
I know.
And we're starting on influencing today.
Yeah, and we did miss one, by the way. If you're one of those who like, hey, wait a minute, you're not done, you missed restorative. Yeah, we'll come back to it. So it's coming later in the season.
If you have restorative, which means you're probably very good at noticing things that are broken or sort of out of place, we're very sorry. It will come back.
we are Maximizer. We apologize. It'll come back. But today we're here. Let's activate on Activator, Maika. We're here to talk about that. And I know you've got some stuff that you want to talk about. Let's dig right into it.
Let's go. So Activator is going to kick off our influencing themes. Remember, this season, we're really targeting the idea of leadership through Cliftonstrengths. So it's imperative that if you're going to lead people, that you know who you are and how you can leverage those themes to help others perform. Activator is in the category of what we call influencing themes. And in preparing how do we describe what these influencing themes are, I reached out to a couple of my friends. I asked Jackie Merritt and Jeremy Petrosini if they had any great words or phrases to describe what these influencing themes are. So just one note about influencing themes as a whole, and then I promise we'll get to Activator as quickly as possible. Influencing themes, in Jackie's words, are those themes that you wear on the outside. They're those themes that other people tend to feel because you kind of wear them on your sleeve. Influencing themes are how they describe leaders who can bring a bigger audience to their team or their organization, who can speak on behalf of other people. Jeremy put it this way: the word influence is the same root word as the word influenza or flu, and it's just as contagious. It's about themes of talent that are incredibly contagious. So it's not necessarily about the roll up your sleeves and do quite so much like the executing themes are that we've been talking about. It's a lot more about how do you affect other people. Some of the themes we're going to talk about in this section of our season will be affecting other people through relationships, through connection. Others will be more about affecting other people through progress and through work. But what they all have in common is the ability to take charge, speak up, and make sure that your team is heard. So Activator is the first one of those. I hope you've already downloaded that companion guide. If you haven't, press pause right now. Go download the companion guide. I will take us through the first page of that just to make sure that we're all speaking a common language with a common understanding of Activator. And then we'll talk about what it looks like in a leadership role. And then you can flip over the page and take some great notes when you hear from a fantastic leader who leads with Activator. Vanessa Toledo-Vickers is here to join us, and we'll talk to her in just a moment. Let's talk about what Activator is. It's the let's get going theme. It is all about getting started. It's about a confidence with action. When you read the long definition here on our companion guide, you see things like when can we start, impatience for action. You may concede that analysis has its uses, or that debate and discussion can occasionally yield some valuable insights, but deep down, you know that only action is real. I love that. I love that idea that thoughtfulness is important, and that debate is important, and that relationships are important. But action is really where the rubber meets the road, is where you define your success. And it's I think this whisper of continuous progress. In an individual, an activator might look like you're the first person off the starting line in a race. In a leader, it might look like you're the starting clerk. I ran track in high school due to zero athletic ability, but a whole lot of woo, and it was what everybody was doing. I wanted to be a part of it. And I remember there was always, I remember the feeling of being on the starting line in a race. And if you think about starting in a herd of people, by yourself with Activator, you're probably just ready to go. But if you're going to use Activator in a leadership position, think about that person whose job it is to get everybody at the starting line, to make sure the team is prepared, but also to be the one who pulls the trigger and starts everything off with that bang. It might also be, using that same sort of metaphor, leading with Activator might also be the person at the end of the corral who runs fast and makes everybody else start going. It's that idea not just of how can I take action, but how can we begin? I think leadership with Activator looks like proactive confidence in movement, that assuredness that as long as we're moving forward, we can find stability, we can be safe, we can be sure. I think you can also demonstrate your belief in others by taking that belief and translating it into action. Imagine how that feels to your followers when you are aware of ideas that they have, or you're aware of causes that are important to them, and you help them take that first step. Help them take something out of blueprint phase and actually dig the foundation. That ability to say, why don't we try it? How can we start? Is a really great way, I think, to instill belief in others, to instill trust in others, and to instill leadership and inspiration in other people. It's an internal sense of urgency, a desire to get going. Activator is also an awareness of the cost of not going. So I think they probably speak in the language of opportunities. They're probably pretty aware when they've missed opportunities because they haven't been able to take that first step. But again, it's that confidence. It's almost a sense of pride in being able to say, let's take the first step. And to others without Activator, I think it looks like quite a bit of courage, quite a bit of certainty, definitely the kind of thing that you want to take up your pack and follow. Think about how can you invest in Activator as a leader. What about aligning your skills with the opportunities that you see? So that might look like, is there something that you know a lot about, or something that you care a lot about, something that you would consider a niche area or an area of expertise? What can you begin? How can you think about projects that are within those areas of skill that help you go even further because maybe there's already some investment having been done? Position yourself for powerful starting. Let's get going can be as valuable as, hey, now it's done. And I think that sometimes we confuse achiever and activator. Achiever is about completion. It's about finishing what you've started. Activator is about beginning things. You can have one or the other. You could have activator without any achiever. And I think in that way, it's important to help communicate the value of beginning something and help people see, in a world where many times we get more praise and we place more value on completing things, help people see that being the person who can help blast through hurdles, or being the person who can add that sense of urgency, or sort of plug in the batteries and get a team mobilized toward a goal, that can be just as valuable. That might mean that you have to talk about your accomplishments, not based on what you finished, but talk about what you've started and how that has created an assist for others. Don't fall into the trap of seeing the value as only being in what you've completed. Expand your vocabulary of what I call go words. If you can get exceptionally effective at helping individuals all start in a way that resonates with them as individuals, I think that it expands your influence as a leader with Activator. So pay attention to the phrases, the gestures, the cultural influence that you have that really inspire people to take action. And think about practicing. How can you have an entire library of go words? For some people, it might mean that they feel comfortable taking action if they're following you. For others, it might be that they feel comfortable taking action if they can see the end result 10 years in the future. Really study what is it that inspires people to take action with you, and then you'll be able to do it even better. Near the end of our first page of the companion guide, we talk about how Activator can help leaders fulfill the 4 needs of followers. Those are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And as we go into our influencing themes today, I'm going to try something a little bit different. Instead of just talking about things that you can do as a leader to adhere to these 4 needs, I'm instead going to ask you questions on these 4 needs. We'll see. I'd love your feedback in the chat room if those questions are helpful, or if you'd rather just have some action. But a question you could ask yourself to help build trust with Activator is, how can you communicate your talent to help start? Or what do you promise to people? So think about how you can build trust by telling people up front, hey, I'm really great at helping you get things started, and help turn that into really a value proposition for the leaders the people who you lead. A question around compassion: where can you make the first move in building a relationship? How can you be that person who breaks the ice? A question for stability: how can you position yourself as a blaster of hurdles? That might not translate, so let's say it another way. How can you position yourself as somebody who helps people remove obstacles? Where can you lend your courage? And then finally, around hope, a question you could ask yourself: what can you help launch off the ground? How can you teach others about the opportunities that you see? Hopefully it gives you a little bit of reflection, maybe a little bit of insight into what Activator looks like and the beauty of this theme as in a leader. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you a leader who leads not only with Activator, but also with Achiever, Strategic, Arranger, and Futuristic. She, in many ways, could be a one-woman show there. You've got all of she can start things, she can end things, she can organize things. Vanessa Toledo-Vickers, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Maika. Great to be here.
Vanessa, you're joining us today from Latino Public Radio in Providence, Rhode Island, the state that has staked their claim in the race to become the first strengths-based state. It's so great to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about what your role is?
So I am Director of Operations at the Academy for Career Exploration, which is a public charter school here in Providence, Rhode Island. We have high school students, 9th through the 12th grade, and from the local school district, about 200 kids in our school. And I am the Director of Operations, so I'm in charge of all the boring stuff on one side, paying the bills, making sure we have what we need to do what we do. But I also, the fun stuff in my job is running student programs and other programs. So employment, community action, the mentoring program, which is in a pilot phase this year. It's a brand new program. And I also organize all of the board related activities, the foot on that part, keep it moving. That's the arranger in there.
I love that. Get it going and keep it moving. That beautiful combination of Activator and Arranger. So where do you notice Activator in your role?
I think the Activator in my role, when I first became Director of Operations, it was because people had moved on, and once I stepped in, there was no playbook. There were no how we do things, where things are. And so my Activator, the initiative, the being proactive, let's create some methods and procedures. Let's figure out how we do things and start putting in place procedures and processes and systems and, kind of take advantage of an opportunity to get us organized. Also, in terms of the programs, there's things that need to move at certain times. I need to get the kids excited about the employment program and to get their resumes done and to apply for the program and understand what they're going to be doing. So there's a lot of getting people moving in a certain direction. One of the projects this year was doing a radio show in partnership with Latino Public Radio. And so part of that was kind of getting people excited about it. You guys know a lot about this, trying to find who's going to be a guest, how are we going to produce it, what's our script, what are we going to talk about, the website. And so partnering with some people internally, with some people at the station, with people outside to make all these things happen.
Is there a moment when you're getting things going that you feel especially excited? What does that feel like for you?
I think that if I think about my career in over decades, right? Every job and every company, whether I was at AT&T or I had my own business or now at A's, is that starting new things is what's really exciting for me. If you say this job doesn't exist or there is no playbook, I go, I can make one. I can create it. Oh, for me, it's the opportunity to make it something different and great. And of course, my arranger wants it to be a certain way, and my achiever wants to get it done right away. And my strategic see the clear path to pull it all together and make it, to the next phase or where we need to be. So I think that's it. It's the brand new projects, the things I can create and start from scratch.
I love that. I'm fascinated by the fact that you also have Achiever. There's a little bit of a conversation going on that I'm catching bits and pieces of in our chat room right now about how do we help activators finish? Do you ever struggle with that? Is it ever a problem for you, or does that Achiever sort of come in and help you pick up the pieces?
No, I think what I struggle is keeping my achiever in check, that we don't really have to finish it all now and we don't have to finish so much. And, between the arranger, achiever, and the activator, one's starting things, the other one's moving them along, the other one's wrapping them up. And it's one big, cycle that just keeps adding things and projects and, little things that we could do better. No maximizer, my maximizer is lower, but always improvement in the process. So from little things to big things, and it's about keeping a balance. Don't keep activating things right now, because you have to have that balance between work and family and just kind of a little bit time for me and a little downtime.
Fascinated by this aspect of Activator as being an influencing theme. It was one thing that surprised me, because I thought it was more about getting stuff done. And before I knew about these leadership domains, I probably would have guessed it was an executing theme. So how does Activator help you inspire other people?
I think, and of course we our top 5 all work in concert, right? So they're influenced by the other 4. So I think my activator is very much influenced by the needs of the other 4 strengths, what they bring, what they need, or what I need because of those strengths. So for an example, we have a partnership with Brown University where we have students working at Brown University. And when I first took over that role, the Brown University Human Resources Department invited me in and said, new people, here's what's important to us, here's what we need, here's what matters, because at the end of the day, they're employees, we need them to show up. So I took that program and said, how do I serve this partner, right? They're my client in a way, they're a partner. How do I serve them? How do I deliver what they need? And create that great relationship between us, and kind of frame the program in a way that I'm bringing in the parents and they're committing to supporting their kids. I'm bringing in the kids and they're committing to a certain standard and a certain set of rules, and understand very clearly and deliver that to the partner in a way that makes sense. And to them, the HR has not called me back in 3 years. So it was one time, and I said, here's my opportunity is to build a tremendous relationship. The program has actually grown where they've added more spots for our kids. So it's in seizing that opportunity and setting the process and what they need to fill their need and feel like you got my back. You're going to get it done for us. The activator and the achiever working together with a little bit of the other themes throwing their 2 cents in.
I love that phrase that you use so powerfully of seize the opportunity. Jump in, just do it. It's almost like the Nike phrase, just do it, or at least just start it.
It's funny. One of our teachers, Mr. Walker, I'll say it, he calls me the director of do it.
I love that. That's excellent. The director of do it. What value do you notice Activator bringing to other people?
I think that in terms, we have a administrative team of 5, and then a faculty and administrative team of about 25 people. I'm the only activator in the group. So there's some other influencing themes, but I'm the only activator. And I think for me, it's about kind of raising the flag at times where we need to make a decision. It's time to make a decision because this decision is going to drive what we're going to be able to start planning or doing. So there's a part that drives decisions. There's a part that drives planning. For instance, and we have this pilot mentoring program. And so I've been toning down my activator a little bit because my activator can be impatient. And giving people, my group is full of people with learner and input and intellection. They need to kind of think about it and sort it out and discuss it and, so since December saying we need to think about next year's program, what is it going to look like, when it's going to happen? And I need to give the mentors and the students in the program an answer before they go away for summer, what happens. So been kind of throwing that out, letting it simmer in everybody's minds, but trying to get it to start moving. And at some point, we're going to have to make a decision. We're going to have a plan. We're going to have it in writing. And so for me, it's when do we need to get things started? When do we need decisions? When do we need to finish doing something? We can't keep changing our mind. We got to make a decision and move on to the next thing. So I think the achiever and the arranger and the others kind of pull the activator to help move things to get them to their key points. If that makes sense.
It sounds like such a great mature use of Activator, because on one hand, you could be the only one out of 25 people with this theme, and that could lead to just immense frustration.
It has. It's a learning process, especially with this reflection on strengths, Maika. So it's been a process.
It sounds like, though, you are, and correct me if this isn't quite accurate, it sounds like instead of just standing up and screaming, guys, we got to go, you're seasoning the conversation, sprinkling in a little bit of awareness of urgency.
A little bit of both, but the seasoning, I think, part of the adapting, right? Part of the adapting to the group. I come from a corporate culture, right? I grew up, I joined AT&T right out of school, and I spent a decade there, and it was like my other school. I learned the Fortune 500 way of doing things, and it was, we lived and died by quarterly reports. And so what the retention numbers, what the acquisition numbers were now, or the sales numbers when I was in sales, or the country unit when I was outside of the country, all of those things were really, we lived and died by them, and they moved quick, and results were paramount, which totally speaks to me. So I think that I've learned to kind of, in this different world where it's a different environment, to start peppering and to really work through constituencies as well. So let's say we're planning the mentoring program. So I'm not only just kind of dropping some ideas into our side, but I'm also going to the partners and talking to the mentors. Do you want to come back next year? What do you want the program to look like? Can you guys think about it and let me know? And they said, yes, absolutely. So you need to talk to so-and-so at our company to see what our okay, let me do that. And what happens if, okay, so now I have kind of a whole group of people having these conversations. So I've activated a bunch of people to get me to the point where I say, okay, now we got to have a decision because I have a deadline where everybody leaves for the summer.
It's a beautiful story of how you have managed to help other people take urgency, even if they don't have that talent.
Right. And sometimes, Maika, you have to kind of let it go as much as it hurts.
Yeah.
for me to say, no, we missed the opportunity, I can't take it. But sometimes you just have to say, I tried to activate. I'm just saying, okay, we're not moving in that direction. We're not going to do that. We're just going to, it could have been this, but it won't be because we didn't take the action we needed. It's okay.
Vanessa, let me jump in and ask from the chat room, because SP asked this question kind of related to that. And how do you recommend lowering the frustration of activators when they have people on the team who are slow in that decision-making process? So you as a leader, when you think about, we think about those 4 areas, right? Trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And we have some folks who need time. How do you lower your own expectations? That's really not the right way to say it, but as activators wanting to move, you in a leadership role, how do you kind of manage that?
Well, if you're in a meeting, you play with your pen and you just kind of keep playing with your pen so you have some movement while they just kind of mull it over. If it's, takes more time, you just have to kind of, one is give them time. 2, work through constituencies, because other people may be able to get them to activate, because it gets to the point where other people have a vested interest in things moving. And if you can just kind of point it out to them and they be like, oh, that's right, we may not be able to do if we don't. So you activate somebody else who will create that activation for you. And then at some point you have to say, I've done everything I can other than, kind of dragging them to get it done. And you just let it go, and it becomes kind of a missed opportunity or a lesson learned.
Yeah, and that does happen. I mean, missed opportunities happen no matter what the themes are, right? So It's just not an activator standpoint. But I think oftentimes too, as an activator in leadership roles, we can point that need. It's interesting as we think about the difference between achieving and activating from a motivation standpoint, right? We activators our decisions are to influence people, right? It's not to necessarily get things done. You have both, so you're special. I don't from that regard, but every decision I make really comes from, how is this going to change people? Like, how am I going to change? Theme Thursday was a perfect example, right? When we started thinking about doing this, and Kurt mentioned it on a call to coach, I said, I can absolutely do this, not because I wanted to get something done, but because I wanted to influence people with this form of media, right? That was the motivation that came out of it. I started doing this because I wanted to influence people. I've often found in leadership roles, when that gets slowed down, I need to niche down a little bit in my leadership. So I like to stay high level, but it's going to require me maybe to take that influence down a level to get it moving. And I might need to get involved in the process with them to fully understand what they're deliberating. I find they get frustrated with me because they don't think I understand what their process is. And so by niching down a little bit, asking some more questions, digging into that a little bit more to really understand, hey, what are you deliberating and why? Or
Right.
What are you thinking about and why? I have found in leadership, man, that slows me down. That makes them feel more listened to, more heard. Then we can pop back up, right? Once we get that, we can pop back up and keep moving. So have you experienced that in some of the groups that you've worked with? Because you have that achiever too, that want to just keep driving to check stuff off.
Yeah, I think part of it, there are some pieces of what I do that I can carve out and have control over as to start and finish and how it works, and working externally or internally. There are some pieces that I don't, and those are the pieces that you're referencing right now, where it's your natural place where you want to activate them. And this is not something that you can finish or I can finish, as much as I would like to just grab it and finish it up for them. So I think you make a good point, where how do we activate them? And I think part of it is, some of it, when people are there, I said, how can I help you move this along to the next step? And it's not fully getting them to where they need, but it creates some movement that then they can, maybe they would just hit a roadblock or felt like stuck. And if I can say, how can I help you? Well, here's what I could do, and get them into a little movement. And maybe that's enough to kind of get them out of that deliberation or thinking or pondering or ideating.
Yeah, Maika, you mentioned as we were talking in your segment about trust. And I think trust is the champion for activators. If we don't get the trust as leaders, if we don't get the trust of our people, it's always going to be slow. And I think if we want to move fast with the team, I think we have to work hard on gaining that trust of the team, because once they trust us, they won't deliberate as long. They'll move, they'll know, oh, these decisions are being made in my best interest. And so I think when we think as leaders, when we think about how to maximize or how to use that activator in a way that's good for the team, we have to really focus on getting their trust. And doing things that's in their best interest. Maika, do you want to comment on that?
Well, I think that if you come back to the opportunist idea, you can hear that we should mention, Jim, you have Activator in your top 5 as well. And you can hear in Vanessa and Jim this language of this awareness of opportunities. So one way to build trust is to talk about that connection that maybe is so obvious to you, of if we take the first step, then this is what we get to do. Other people sometimes are so afraid of the first step that they're not making that connection that to you is just automatic and intrinsic. So sometimes it's just very simply telling people what the benefit of starting is.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think also the trust piece, building the trust piece, is about responsiveness, right? And that's the director of do it kind of thing, where, something's happening. You have a member of the staff walk in my office and said, Vanessa, I'm thinking I would like, and I go, okay, let's go. Let's do it. It's done. Here it is. And it's that responsiveness that goes, wow, I can count on her. And so when the next time you come in and you need to activate them in some way, you come into them and say, I need this from you, then you've created that relationship at a different level where now it's easier for them to accept your activation.
Beautifully said. It almost sounds like Activator on many levels can look, when you think about Activator as building that relationship, that ability to say, I'm responding to what you need. It can almost look a lot like adaptability, that ability to say, in the moment, I can respond to something. The difference is Activator's doing it on a progress or a process track, whereas adaptability maybe could just sit there and be present with you and not have to take any action.
And that's a good point, because I have a ranger, right? And a ranger is adaptable. So when you bring that activator within a ranger, you get some of those elements that you're talking about.
And some interesting, very tip of the spear leadership stuff, because those 3, when we think about a ranger, activator, and achiever, you probably play on the tip of the spear a lot in the groups that you're in. You're out front, you're moving forward on things. Maika, you have an interesting in the show notes. When we think about the stability aspect of it, you would often think that an activator would not provide stability. And yet, because they would be moving all the time, right? And that's not the definition. And yet an activator can provide stability in moving things out of the way. So, right?
That, and also being proactive, right? Because if you are always putting out fires, if you are always being driven by the chaos, if the external elements are driving your day to day, it feels like you don't know what you're doing. To other people, it looks like your day, you show up to work and you don't know what you're going to do all day, because somebody else is going to determine what you get done today, what you start, what you manage. If you're being proactive and, activating on things, then you start to reduce those urgent things that need to happen. They're all going to happen, and you need to adapt or, go with the flow in many ways. But being proactive provides that sense of stability for people.
Yeah. Well, I'm proactive sometimes in the sense of putting out the fires. I've always told people I'm a better firefighter than I'm a farmer. And I think I said that in season 1 as we talk about it. I like the day-to-day. My activator likes the day-to-day difference, right? But people have said, like, when we're doing this webcast, it's like the duck, right? The feet are paddling a million miles an hour and the body is just still. And the activator in me of doing a whole bunch of things while we're on the webcast allows us to do this in a very efficient manner with nobody seeing what's going on behind the scenes. And so my activator provides that stability to this community in a lot of ways, in both the webcast and what we do online. Like, I'm always on in our groups doing stuff, and I like that, right? I'm driven by this need to constantly be doing things. And that's getting things out of the way. That's helping people, right? Solving questions, getting problems taken care of. That plays to that theme really well.
Absolutely.
Vanessa, can you think about an activator story, maybe from a time in your current role or back in your work with more corporate sort of environments, when you really noticed activator was present in you?
I think that there's a couple of things. I think last year we adopted the Google Apps for Education platform at our school, moving into a more an environment where we have the kids using more technology, using Google Classroom, collaborating online on documents, and kind of making that whole process. Somebody came in and set up all the technical stuff, and so. I said, I need to learn this and see how can we use it. And of course, in my mind, as the operations person, is how do we create a more efficient organization that makes it easier to communicate and share information? So I just jumped into the platform and started learning how to use all these different apps and how to combine them. So we moved from a paper admissions application to an electronic bilingual application that automatically creates the database spreadsheet and generates a printed, typed application form that's much easier to read and stored, and everybody can share. And it automatically tallies how much do we have, a little Excel work, how many applications do we have? Is it the mother applying or the father? And all this quantitative data. So it's kind of diving. Learner is my number 6. So I think it pushed up into help me with this. So in terms of just, and it was not something that I was expected to do or asked to do. It was something that I just kind of jumped into and said, oh my God, now I have this thing that I could use, this opportunity to make things more efficient, more effective, to create something for our school. And I just jumped into that. So that was a big way to do that and have an impact that really fed all of my strengths.
Oh, that's fantastic. What did you feel like? You mentioned earlier, and I want to go back to this for people who've never done this with their own strengths, this concept of what do your themes need? Sort of what do they give, but what do they need? What did you feel like in that situation your activator really needed?
My activator needed to understand. So we had this brand new tool that I didn't know anything about, and my activator needed to see how do we use this? How do we leverage? I need to learn this so that I can figure out what opportunities does it open up for us to create efficiencies, to make it easier to do our jobs, to make it, and a lot of it was for the following new school year, how much can I set up that then next year is already there? So by the end of the school year and new kids came into orientation, there were school floor plans on an intranet, and there was a directory of all teachers, and there was a timeline for different things. So there were a lot of things, and these kids, they received their accounts, and they could, over the summer, browse, and when they came in, they knew where to access things. So it was my activator just needed to take this thing and move it to create it a really relevant tool for our school.
It had to move in order to be relevant.
It did. It had to become something, right? It had to be, somebody had to figure out how to leverage it. And my activator said, and my achiever said, you do it.
Mm. We talked on this week around the entrepreneurial strengths. So we talked about builder profile, and we talked about risk. This idea that the risk to other people might seem like it's really far out there, but what you're describing is, I'd use that strategic, that futuristic, that achiever to find out what my activator was jumping into. And so to you, maybe it didn't seem like quite such a huge change as to those students who showed up with something brand new and beautiful.
Absolutely. And especially because technology to them is much more. I mean, these are kids that grew up with,
right,
everything at their fingertips in terms of technology and information. So to them, it was like, of course they have this. And we were like, oh my God, you should see our brand new tools. It's amazing.
They were like, yeah, I got that at home. No big deal.
Exactly.
Oh, what fun. So if you were to think back to what you've done to mature your activator or to get better at it, is there anything you've learned or come to understand that's made your activator more effective?
I think I did the strengths coaching. I started the training. It's going to be a year this summer. So, and like Jim mentioned, listening to podcasts on a cruise, that was me. Thank you. Full side. And I think the realization is that the activator can be annoying. not everybody sees the need for urgency in movement. I see it very clearly. I see time ticking away, and we need to get moving. We need to get going. And so I think that it's been about, okay, sit down, twirl your pen, let them go through it, let them have time. So giving people more time from when I say we need to start thinking, we need to decide, and opening up that time frame to allow them the time, and having, it's great that everybody has taken Strengths Finder, because I can see everybody's strengths. So before I go deal with somebody, even when we do the radio interviews, it's so insightful to sit there and talk to somebody and know their strengths. And as they're going through the story, I see them coming out. You really understand how to talk or what they need, and allow them to have what they need for a little time. So I think it's more about a sense of others. And you say this in all the seasons, you need to fall in love with all 34. I don't have high on the relationship building side, so I wouldn't say fall in love, but really understand and appreciate. And if I have a real understanding that, let's say you're an intellection, so you're going to need to talk about it and debate it a little bit. If I give you that time, I'm going to have a lot easier time activating. If I try to activate from the get-go, you're just going to dig in your heels and not move, because you haven't had the time to kind of go through your own process. So the lead time, the allowing others to help me activate, because if I need to activate Maika to do something, maybe Maika doesn't see the need right now, but if I can activate Jim may help me activate Maika, and then it's me and Jim trying to activate Maika. That's going to be difficult for you to say no.
I love that it's about listening. It's about using that activator to pay attention to what means go to other people. That idea of lead time, I think, is such a great action point that leaders with activator could take of, build yourself some urgency before you get in that situation. Either do that maybe by sending out agendas or by sprinkling in some deadlines, and so that other people start to move before you really have to have them move.
Exactly.
That's cool. Is that ever challenging?
It is challenging, and there's still some people that are not going to move. It's challenging for me because I want to have 100 different things moving at the same time. And for me, we need to activate 10 things right now. And now I have to give you an extra month or an extra couple of months, or I have to remind you several times, or may have to let it go. So it's both things. The lead time, the learning to say, I've done what I can, and that it's time to just let it go, even though it's not in my DNA doesn't really like that. And I think the other piece about activator is, for example, in my view, a staff meeting is about status, right? It's about status and connecting, and they should be short. You cannot have half-day staff meetings all the time. So when you're in my days at AT&T, we had parking lots, right? So as we were going through the staff meeting, everybody would quickly put things on the parking lot that needed to be, side conversations, side meetings, and not right now, because the purpose of this meeting is to connect and to do status and make sure we're all on the same page. So part of that is saying, as the conversation starts to go into what should be a sideline conversation, is say, time out. What we should be doing here is this. So that conversation should be a subgroup at a different time. Can we do that? And get the group to have consensus on it, even though the person who thinks this is something we should discuss for the next hour may not like that or agree with it, but the group does, because everybody else may have other meetings to go to or other things to go to, and they say, yeah, we have a hard stop. So let's move on and make sure we cover everything. So those would be my thoughts.
It's almost giving the activator permission to be a part of the group. We've talked about activator as a leader, and it almost seems like it fits really well when you can guide the direction. You can say, let's go. As an individual contributor, how has activator been for you?
As an individual contributor, like when I kind of do things on my own?
Yeah. So maybe, do you think about activator when you're in a partnership or when you're part of a team versus when you have the leadership role to say, I'm in charge of the team? Is there a difference?
Is there a difference? I think it's the activator in a partnership. So, for example, I work very closely with our director of development, and I really activate on how can I help you? If I do this, is it helpful? Okay. So we have an event and I know that there's things need to be done. It's her event. She's leading it. She's calling the shots. But I may say, can I take this off your hands? And so I'm jumping in, I'm taking a lead in doing something, but it's in support of the person in charge. So she says, yes, here, take it, go do it. And I'm going to not worry about it. And then I can activate in that role. Same things for our admissions. Our assistant head of school, who is in charge of admissions and all student affairs, it's like, how can I take things off your hands? So the automating of the admissions, the production of the spreadsheet, and just even automating some other task, it reduces her workload. So I'll go in and say, if you don't mind, I could do this, this, and this, which would do this and this for you. Is that okay? Go do it. Great. Help me. And so it allows me to lead in a supporting role, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's so much more activator friendly than saying, how can I help? And twiddling your thumbs and waiting for something, because you can see those opportunities and you can translate them into action you could take, giving somebody a menu of here's 5 things I can do. Which one can I go activate?
Exactly.
Maika, we've got a question in the chat room. I think it's important to get to. We are focusing on leadership this year, and so I don't want to get too far away from that. But guest 311 asked, how do activators, basically who are not in leadership roles, and we often think about the leadership ones as driving change or driving direction, but for those who have high activator, not in leadership roles, when they're in individual contributing roles or in their roles where they're not in leadership, how do they proceed forward without necessarily challenging the current or offending the current culture or the current workplace? Maika, let me start with you, and then Vanessa will pop that over to you. Maika, advice that you give in that area?
I think what Vanessa just talked about is a great example. Being able to be aware of opportunities and then offering them in a service way. Hey, can I activate on this? Can I help us do this? Because I think a lot of the times, if you can wait for direction. And if you're an activator, you already know what needs to happen. So bringing that talent to the table and saying, I see things that can be done. Can I go do them?
Yes.
What she just explained there. Anything broader than that, Vanessa, what does it make you think of?
No, I can tell you that this year I decided, and maybe it's because of all the strengths work and reflection and coaching conversations, I don't know. But before the school year started, I sat down with our head of school with 3 pages that I had put together. And it was here's what I'm going to do this year. And so it was kind of, here's the general stuff that I'm doing, but here's the new stuff I'm going to do. And here and of course the achievers there, here's what I want to accomplish this year. But it was very clear. And there were a lot of things that I wanted to activate, that I wanted to do. And I said, can I go do all these things this year? And I'll check in with you mid-year and tell you how we're doing, and we can change it if we need to. But it gave me, and we sat down and we went through it. And in a lot of that said, here's what I need from you. In order for me to do these things, here's what I need from you. So it was the actions that he needed to take to support my what I wanted to do. And so it made a really clear roadmap, and I had permission to activate before the year started. And so I just move. And it reminded me of this thing. I was in college, my senior year at George Washington University. We were doing a research project for the IEEE in engineers organization. They invited us to an event. We met this woman who had been part of the Fortran team developers. And she said, and I thought she was so brilliant, she said, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And I said, oh my God, that is so incredibly smart. I love it. And so at times there's a little bit of that. I just activate because I know it's the right thing to do, because I think it's going to be okay. And I'll say I'm sorry later if I need to, but it's something, and I'll move on those opportunities. So those two areas. Outline what it is you want to activate on and get an okay on it, or just ask for forgiveness later.
I love what Dominica says here in the chat room. Be honest about who you are and curious about the other person. And I think the way that you can contribute as an activator, whether you're in a leadership position or not, is to pay real close attention to your other themes.
Mhm.
Are you're hearing right now, activate futuristic and achiever and arranger. If you have activator and a relationship building theme, maybe you need to be the first person to break any hesitance to help people connect. Maybe you could be the best cheerleader on the team. Maybe you could activate on celebrating, or activate on helping other people develop, or activate on helping people think. And so I think it's real important just to be honest about it. And at that point, if it's true, then you're helping people understand how to get the best out of you.
Absolutely. And I think that the relationship piece, any of those strengths on the relationship side are just an amazing tool for the activator. Because if you want to get people moving, like individualization, if you are somebody with high individualization, you can probably talk to somebody and in a very short time frame know enough about them that you know what's going to get them moving. So those are amazing strengths that would really make the activator so much more effective.
I love that. Can you think of good partners you've had and what other people have done to make you more effective?
I think the great partners that I have and who end up being great friends are people who really help me with those relationship building areas. People tell me that, so I'm Latina and our culture is very much about relationships, and it's very much about, kind of that connecting with people. So I have some of that because I grew up in that. I grew up in Puerto Rico. It's how we do things. We sit for the first half hour having coffee, how's the kids, how's the family, doing all that relating. Relator is my first relationship building, and it's number 15. So at least, so I think the great partners for me are the people who are really great people, who help me kind of bring that piece in, as the achiever, activator, arranger, strategic, futuristic. I need to put on my list to do's connecting with people if I really want to get it done, because I walk in and I'm all business and I'm walking around like I'm marching in, running to a fire to put it out. I'm always in, get it going, get it done, production mode. So those are the people that I'll give you an example. I was sitting with our assistant head of school, who is very much the relationship building kind of skills person. We have a student who's telling me about a problem at the employment, just a disagreement with another person. And our assistant head of school is sitting there listening very attentively. Yes, letting go. I'm like, okay, we get it. Now, are you going, okay, okay, get back to class. And when the kid left, I said to her, listen, we listen, whatever, but you were going to let her go on for another hour. And she goes, absolutely. I said, no, I needed to get her back to class because we have to get to something. And so, the best partners are those that help slow me down and say, Vanessa, we need to kind of bring in that piece.
It sounds like they do that by telling you what needs to be accomplished. Is that what slows you down if you can see other goals?
I think that the two specific people I'm talking about, they bringing in by just, we talk about it and we adjust, it tends to be where you work with someone, and when you've built that trust and you kind of connect with each other in that way, that you get the cues, right? Mm-hmm. So you'll get that look and I'll be like, okay, I need to let her do her thing because I'm pushing too hard or I'm doing this. And they become the yin to my yang, you know what I mean? And so it's about trusting them that they are asking me to do something because they see a need for something else that I'm not seeing.
That's excellent. Thanks. Well, Jim, I see you jumping in here.
Yeah, well, we are at the end of our time. You're having some microphone issues.
I'm having a lot of troubles. My whole world's just falling apart, but not at all due to you two. This has been phenomenal. I can't believe we're almost done.
It has been awesome, Vanessa. I would think, as I'm looking through the notes again, this idea of hope. And I think you and I share a lot in this, and that the idea generation around this arranger activator combo that we have of being able to very quickly kind of assess a situation, come up with some really actionable items that can be done, and then using influence to move those groups forward, right? To get things going, to get people off center. Have you had that situation? I'm sure you have, and all the stuff is we hear what you're doing here. Do you get that sense of hope from people after you've gotten them moving? Like, hey, someone knows what's going on here. Do you get that sense?
I think I do, and I think our mentoring program was the best way. Here we have a outside mentoring partnership organization that's the gold standard, and it's helping me make sure that we're doing things the best way possible. I have an industry partner with a number of professionals that are going to come into the school, meet these kids, and kind of work with them. I have these kids that are saying, well, these people are coming, I'm in a mentoring program, I don't understand. And you talk to them at this point, and it is just amazing how it's all pulled together, come together, and how people are like, this has been amazing. I get so much out of it, the kids and the adults. And it's just been it was non-existent. Nobody knew exactly how it would work. And we kind of got these 3-4 different organizations and probably 25 people mobilized to create something that everybody has felt it's done so much for them. And so, yes, I think it's unbelievable.
It's a great feeling. Maika and I get that feeling all the time when we get feedback from the chat room or when we get your emails that you send to us saying it's happening right now. Hey, if you look at the chat room right now, lots of appreciation, Vanessa, for what you've said and for the kind of the conversation here. And I think that gets to the heart of some of that, what it means to be an activator and influence and provide hope for people. It's more than just doing, it's influencing in a positive way, oftentimes to get people moving in a way that will make a difference. And I think at the end of the day, as activators, we love that. So Maika, any final thoughts?
Thank you, Vanessa, for not just for being here today, but for all the work that you do. You are thoughtfully and purposefully investing your talents in ways that help other people understand theirs. And we could talk for another hour about all of the projects that you have buzzing around strengths. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Jim, I was thinking about Activator. I had the pleasure, as I was prepping for this show, to watch the very first Theme Thursday, which was about Activator. And you could feel the power and the hope that we started out with, a couple years ago, thinking about how do we educate people and how do we help people truly harness these talents and transform them into strengths. So when I think about Activator, I think to even longer ago than that, probably almost 5 years ago, Jim, when I was sitting in my office in England and you called me over Skype and said, I've got this idea. I hear you're running a blog. I think I want to add some video to it. And I remember leaving that call saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Let's jump in and do it. And so thank you for lending me a little bit of that activator. And thanks, Vanessa, for using that phrase today, because I think it is certainly a maxim that rings true with many activators and such an energizing spark that you can give to other people. So thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. We'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center. Just GallupStrengthCenter.com. You can send us your questions or comments. If you got some ideas in your head, speaking of a blog, brewing for one of those blog posts, you can send that to us. We're looking 400 to 600 words, just some ideas around that. Coaching, send that in an email, coaching@gallup.com. Put guest blogger in the subject line, and they'll route that over to Maika, and we will consider it. You can catch the recorded audio and video of this program as well as all the past ones. They're available on our coaches blog. Just head out to coaching.gallup.com. If you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach, we do have a list of all of our courses. And by the way, with the summit coming up, those courses are 15% off. So if you think you're going to come to the summit, you want to take one of our courses, you want to get 15% off. Who doesn't want 15% off? We'd love to have you do that. They're listed, all those are listed on our courses page. Go to courses.gallup.com, particularly for the summit. If you're coming or interested, there's still time to get signed up and to come. You can go to Clifton Strengths Summit, there we go, .com, and all the information is there. If you found this helpful, we'd ask that you share it. Well, thank you for coming out today. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.